Have you ever felt like you just belong to a certain group, whether it's your circle of friends, a hobby, or even an online community? And when you're around people who share the same interests or values, it's like you can instantly connect. But how do we decide which groups we belong to, and how does it shape the way we see ourselves and others? Today I will be talking about a psychological process that shapes how we perceive ourselves and how we interact with others. In society it is easy to be an outside observer, watching from the sidelines, but once we identify as a group member, things change. Identifying with a group shapes how we see ourselves and influences our behavior within that group, as well as how we interact with others outside of it. It may shape the way we behave, not just because of the identity of the group but also the behavior of the group. For example, let's say we join a sports team. The identity of being part of a sports team may make us behave a certain way. But also the people's behavior within a group may cause us to adapt to those behaviors, and change us. Social categorization theory builds on social identity theory by explaining how our group memberships help define our self-concept, how we think about ourselves. Our sense of belonging can affect our relationships with others, whether they are part of our group or belong to an entirely different one. This process impacts dynamics. According to this theory, we use prototypes, idealized representations of what it means to be a member of a particular group. They help us quickly identify who belongs to a group based on general characteristics. The meta-contrast principle explains how we perceive the world in terms of group differences. Essentially, we tend to see strong similarities among members of the group we belong to while emphasizing large differences to people who are not part of our group. This can create a toxic mentality, and also a them against us thinking. The meta-contrast principle helps us maintain distinctiveness between groups, making the differences feel bigger than they actually are. It also contributes to seeing ourselves more as members of a group rather than as unique individuals. So, instead of thinking of ourselves as an individual with unique traits, we might focus more on how we fit into the broader group. Whether it's being part of a work team or a friend group, our self-concept is deeply influenced by the groups we belong to. And when we see ourselves as part of a group, we often start to adopt the group's behaviors, beliefs, and attitudes. For example, on social media people post content which can be influenced by the group they feel they belong to. Someone who identifies with a particular political group may post content that aligns with that group's values, reinforcing the prototype of what it means to be a member of that group. On the other hand, we may also develop stereotypes about people from different groups based on their online presence. The meta-contrast principle says we may see ourselves as similar to our online friends but different from people who hold opposing views. This creates divisions, and the more we emphasize these differences, the harder it becomes to understand or empathize with people outside of our own group. It is important to live for yourselves, and whilst judgment may occur, remember you are different to others and that shouldn't stop you from being you. Of course, it is completely normal to think that a group may behave a certain way, and to some degree it may be true. A certain group of people will likely behave a certain way. However, it is important to remember that people are different and likely not everyone within the group shares the exact same views or behaviors. To deal with this awareness is key. Recognizing that our group identity shapes how we think and act can help us become more open to diverse perspectives. By acknowledging that people from different groups have unique experiences, we can start breaking down the barriers that divide us. Mindfulness can help us challenge stereotypes and be more open-minded. For example, when we meet someone from a different group, instead of relying on assumptions based on stereotypes, we can try to engage with them as an individual and look beyond their group membership. Reflecting and taking time to just think about things can be useful, and you can deeply think about issues you may face. Remember, never waste your time trying to explain who you are to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You may be part of a group that holds certain stereotypes that you don't identify with, but this doesn't mean that you need to explain to anyone who you truly are.